or what killed the one, the only, Bruce Lee?
An allergic reaction to a drug or...
There was...
How Bruce Lee died?
They said it was a couple.
Yeah.
They said he upset it because of his success in the film industry and taking the martial arts around the world, that he upset it, the triads.
What if I told you that Bruce Lee, the martial arts icon, may have been murdered, not from a tragic accident? For decades, the world has mourned the loss of this legendary figure, but shocking new details have emerged years after his death that challenge everything we thought we knew. As we peel back the layers of mystery surrounding his untimely demise in 1973, prepare to confront unsettling theories and disturbing revelations that could forever change the way we view Bruce Lee's legacy. Bruce Lee's death has puzzled fans all over the world to this day, and there are no final answers. Lee's life story is incredibly fascinating. Born in the United States but raised in Hong Kong, he was much more than just an actor. He was a master of martial arts who changed the way action movies are made with his fresh ideas on fighting. From a young age, he trained in Wing Chun, a form of Chinese Kung Fu, with his teacher, Yip Man. Lee was always looking to get better and eventually created his own martial arts style and philosophy known as Jeet Kune Do. This new style focused on being practical and adaptable in combat, which was a game changer in martial arts. Both Bruce Lee and Jean-Claude Van Damme managed to turn their deep love for martial arts into phenomenal film careers that have greatly influenced the action movie genre. However, while Van Damme has had a lengthy career, Bruce Lee's was tragically short as he died just when he was reaching the peak of his fame. His sudden death has sparked endless discussions and theories, leaving many people wondering about the real reasons behind his early demise. This unanswered question adds an even more compelling layer to his already intriguing story, highlighting a brilliant life that was cut far too short. The parallels between these two giants of martial arts are hard to overlook. They both changed the game in Hollywood, turning their fighting skills into cinematic gold. However, Van Damme's story continues to unfold, while Lee's remains incomplete, shrouded in doubts and unresolved questions about his sudden demise. This adds a layer of intrigue to Lee's legacy, keeping his fans yearning for answers and clinging to the possibilities of what might have been had he lived longer. His skills got Hollywood's attention, and he first appeared on American TV in the series The Green Hornet, playing Kato. This role made him quite popular in the US, setting the stage for his later success in movies. His big moment came with the film The Big Boss, which broke box office records in Hong Kong and showed off his impressive martial arts skills, firmly establishing him as a top action movie star. Bruce Lee quickly became a big deal in the martial arts film world with his movies Fist of Fury in 1972 and Way of the Dragon. In Way of the Dragon, he wasn't just the main guy on screen, he also wrote the story, directed the movie, and designed all those fight moves. His throwdown with Chuck Norris in the Coliseum is still one of the most talked about fight scenes ever. Lee had an eye for detail and a way of making fight scenes that hadn't been seen before. His movements were so quick they almost didn't seem real. His big Hollywood break came with Enter the Dragon in 1973, a film made with the backing of Warner Brothers. This was a big deal because it was one of the first major martial arts movies with such strong support in Hollywood, and it starred an Asian actor as the lead hero, which was rare. In Enter the Dragon, Lee played a secret agent on a mission to take down a criminal gang. The film was a massive hit, pulling in over $200 million globally and becoming one of the top moneymakers of the year. This success opened a lot of doors for Lee in Hollywood, and he started getting offers for even bigger projects. Sadly, Lee passed away at the age of 32, right when he was set to become an even bigger star. Despite his career being cut short, Lee's influence on the movie industry is undeniable. Lee's films broke new ground. They didn't just make a lot of money, they changed how Asian actors were seen in Hollywood. Before Lee, Asian actors were often stuck in minor roles. Lee showed that Asian actors could be the main heroes and pull in big audiences. His success paved the way for other Asian actors and martial artists in the entertainment industry. Lee's impact went beyond movies. He created his own style of martial arts called Jeet Kune Do, focusing on practical fighting techniques and personal improvement. This philosophy and his emphasis on staying fit and always getting better inspired millions worldwide. Lee's dedication to martial arts and his charismatic personality made him a cultural icon whose influence continues today. Let's dive into Bruce Lee's deep impact on movies and martial arts and why his legacy still matters so much today. A star too bright for the world. Some might argue that Lee's movies were too focused on action and didn't have enough of a story. They might say his films were about showing off his martial arts skills rather than telling a deep and meaningful story. However, it's tough to overlook the impact Lee had. He was more than just a movie star. He pioneered the way people saw martial arts films and inspired countless individuals to take up martial arts themselves. But let's dig deeper into why Lee was so influential. Firstly, his movies introduced Western audiences to martial arts in a way that wasn't just about fighting. It was about artistry and philosophy. His approach to martial arts was new and exciting. It was about being fast, efficient, and adaptable. Secondly, Lee's roles were powerful because they conveyed strength, intelligence, and integrity, traits that were often not associated with Asian characters in Hollywood at that time. Moreover, Lee's legacy is visible in how action movies are made today. The precision and creativity of fight choreography in modern cinema owe a lot to Lee's pioneering work. Actors today who perform their own stunts or engage deeply with their action roles are following in the footsteps Lee left behind. His films continue to be a benchmark for action and martial arts cinema, and his influence is seen in how actors and filmmakers approach the genre. Lee was a cultural ambassador. He introduced elements of Chinese culture through his films and promoted the idea of cross-cultural understanding through martial arts. His global appeal helped bridge cultural gaps and brought Eastern and Western audiences together. His philosophy of life, emphasizing personal growth and self-expression, resonates with people across different backgrounds and continues to inspire discussions about culture, identity, and personal development. Bruce Lee wasn't just a film star. He was a philosopher, teacher, and a guiding light for many around the world, and his legacy lives on in various facets of popular culture and personal development. Bruce Lee's passing on July 20th, 1973 was a stark reminder of how fragile life can be, even for someone as seemingly unstoppable as him. On what appeared to be just another busy day in Hong Kong, the world of entertainment was about to be hit hard by the loss of one of its biggest stars. Lee was there to work on his movie Game of Death and was also supposed to have dinner with a producer about a possible new film. But what seemed like a regular day turned into a tragic event that would be talked about around the world. The day started off. Typically enough, Lee had a meeting with Raymond Chow, his producer, to chat about a future film. After this, he went over to the apartment of actress Betty Ting to rehearse lines for Game of Death. Ting was more than just a colleague, she was also a friend. During their session, Lee started to complain about a headache. This didn't seem like a big deal at the time, just a minor inconvenience. Ting gave him a painkiller to help, not knowing this small act would have huge consequences. Lee decided to take a nap, hoping to sleep off the headache, but he never woke up. After failing to rouse him, a doctor was called and Lee was rushed to the hospital. Unfortunately, it was too late. He was declared dead upon arrival. The official cause of death was cerebral edema, a severe swelling in the brain caused by a reaction to the painkiller. Cerebral edema, or swelling of the brain, is a serious medical issue. It happens when fluid builds up in the spaces of the brain, causing increased pressure. This can happen for several reasons, including injuries, infections, or reactions to drugs, as in Lee's case. The skull doesn't stretch, so when the brain swells, it has nowhere to go. This leads to increased pressure inside the skull, which can cut off the blood flow and oxygen the brain needs to function. Symptoms start small, like headaches or dizziness, but can quickly get worse, leading to severe problems like losing control over basic bodily functions. When the swelling gets too severe, it can cause the brain to push against the skull or squeeze important areas like the brainstem, which controls vital functions such as breathing and heart rate. This can lead to a cascade of problems, where the pressure from the swelling cuts off more blood flow, which in turn causes more swelling and pressure, ultimately leading to death if not treated quickly. This condition isn't just a rare tragedy. It has claimed the lives of other well-known individuals, including American singer Nicolette Larson, among others. Bruce Lee's sudden death at the young age of 32 really shook everyone up. It was like the whole world just stopped for a moment trying to make sense of what happened. All sorts of people, from everyday fans to big movie stars, seemed to be in total shock. They quickly filled newspapers and TV screens with their sadness and praises for Lee. At his funeral, it was quite a scene. You had major actors like Steve McQueen, who not only acted but also learned martial arts from Lee, helping carry his coffin. James Coburn was there too, along with other celebrities, all showing just how much Lee meant to them, not just as a martial artist, but as a real influencer in their lives. As we reflect on Lee's film achievements, we now turn to personal stories from those who knew him and the persistent rumors about his unexpected death. A dark farewell fit for a fighter. Then there was Chuck Norris, another martial arts actor who had gone toe-to-toe with Lee in movies. And so this about Grace Slater. He was all about praising Lee, even though you could tell he liked being in the limelight a bit himself. He talked about them being like two warriors who respected each other a lot, which was his way of showing how much he looked up to Lee, even though it also felt a bit like he was enjoying the attention. The world of martial arts felt the hit especially hard. Important figures like John Rhee, who people call the father of American Taekwondo, were really sad about losing someone who had made martial arts popular around the world. It's like a finger pointing away to the moon. Don't concentrate on the finger, or you will miss all that heavenly glory. Lee wasn't just about fighting. He taught people that martial arts were about growing as a person, learning discipline, and expressing yourself. In Hong Kong, Lee's funeral was almost like that of a president or some huge leader. Thousands of people crowded the streets just to watch his coffin go by. It showed just how much people loved him and how big of a deal he was. But sometimes you had to wonder if all this show of grief was more about how famous he was, rather than who he really was as a person. Bruce Lee had turned martial arts into something that wasn't just about fighting. It was a way to better yourself, to stick to a strict routine, and to show who you are through your actions. This idea had a big impact on lots of people, far beyond just those who practice martial arts. And while everyone was saying how great he was, it sometimes felt like they were more interested in being part of the big story than in the man himself. Lee had this huge, almost legendary status, and it seemed like people were quick to talk more about the legend than the actual guy. It's interesting, too, how quickly everyone jumped to honor him. It was like they couldn't wait to make him into this larger-than-life figure. This happens a lot with celebrities. Their real selves get lost as soon as they become symbols or icons. People were super quick to celebrate him as this almost mythical figure, which was a bit strange. It made you think about how we treat famous people when they die. Like suddenly their real stories don't matter as much as the stories we want to tell about them. Bruce Lee left a big mark on pop culture and martial arts, and people didn't just forget about him after he died. His ideas and unique style kept people talking and paying tribute to him long after the initial buzz of his passing died down. Those who knew him personally often talked about him as more than a movie star or martial artist. They described him as a deep thinker and a devoted family man. Jean-Claude Van Damme, for example, often shares how Bruce Lee's movie Enter the Dragon really inspired him when he was just 13 years old. That film was a big moment for Van Damme, starting a lifetime of looking up to Lee, which influenced both his martial arts and his acting career. Van Damme's excitement is obvious when he talks about the first time he saw Lee on screen. He praises Lee's skills and his fresh, dynamic martial arts style that really shook up the usual roles given to Asian actors in Hollywood back then. It's much more likely that there are other factors at play, or that it's just one of those unexpected tragic events. Bruce Lee, a man famous for his intense dedication and almost superhuman stamina, was always pushing his limits. Right before he passed away, he was working hard on his movie Game of Death, doing very demanding physical activities in the hot and humid weather of Hong Kong. Now, this theory that's been floated around suggests that a combination of his grueling training, the extreme weather, and an unusual surgery he had, where he had the sweat glands from his underarms removed, might have created the perfect conditions for a heat stroke. For those who might not know, heat stroke is a severe condition where your body gets so hot it can't cool itself down anymore. When this happens, you can experience things like a very high fever, a fast heartbeat, confusion, or even passing out. Those who believe this theory point to the way Bruce Lee felt on the last day of his life. Apparently, he was complaining about a headache and just not feeling right, which led him to take a nap from which he never woke up. Later that night, when he didn't respond, he was rushed to the hospital and sadly, he was declared dead. These symptoms, the theory suggests, could indicate that he was experiencing a heat stroke. Adding to the story, some folks think that the official reason given for his death, cerebral edema, which is swelling in the brain caused by an allergic reaction to a painkiller, might not tell the whole story. They speculate that the real culprit could have been the heat stroke, which then led to the reaction that caused the swelling. It's interesting, though, to consider that this focus on his removed sweat glands might be oversimplifying a complex situation. Yes, it's a compelling story to think that a cosmetic surgery could lead to such a tragic outcome. It has that element of irony, being undone by one's own efforts to look good on camera. However, to say that losing a few sweat glands directly led to his death ignores how complex the human body is. Our bodies are equipped with many ways to handle heat, and it seems a bit far-fetched to say that the absence of some sweat glands under his arms would be enough to cause a fatal condition. What's more, there's a bit of a tendency to want to wrap up Bruce Lee's death in a neat, dramatic package. It's as if the plain truth that accidents and medical conditions can happen randomly isn't quite satisfying enough. We seem drawn to the idea of a legendary figure being brought down by his quest for physical perfection. It's a story that fits neatly into a narrative arc, But life isn't always so neatly scripted. Could Jean-Claude Van Damme's claim about Bruce Lee's death uncover hidden truths, or is it just another addition to the pile of unsolved topics around his death? What do you think? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives and revelations.